In Washington, President Biden exonerated by special counsel Robert Hur after a lengthy investigation into his handling of classified documents. But the report included a loaded assessment of the president's mental state that could have major implications in his campaign for re-election. Rashad Hudson has more from the Capitol.
President Biden said the special counsel made the right decision not to recommend criminal charges, but then went on to blast the special counsel and the report in a pretty fiery response.
The matter is now closed.
After a year-long investigation, special counsel Robert Hur concluded in his report that no criminal charges are warranted against President Biden for his handling of classified documents after he left the White House as vice president.
I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me in this case.
The report included photos of classified Afghanistan documents at President Biden's Delaware home and other records at his former office in Washington, D.C. The special counsel criticized the president, saying he willfully retained and disclosed classified material when he was a private citizen.
These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong.
During his address, President Biden also fired back at special counsel Hur for suggesting he did not remember when his son Beau died.
I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away. The simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events, going back 40 years.
And the White House says it is glad this matter has been resolved and that the president can now return to the task at hand. Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson, back to you.
Thanks, Rashad. Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's serving as a surrogate for Biden's re-election campaign, weighed in on the report, calling the special counsel's comments on Biden's age unfair.
He was a Trump appointee originally to the Department of Justice to offer his own opinions about the mental acuity or age of the President of the United States. I've been with the President of the United States many times. He is on the ball. The man knows more than most of us have forgotten. He knows so much more because he's been in government for a number of years now and served in important positions.
Well, Patrick Hanley is the president of New Trier Democrats. He joins me this morning to talk more about what is next. Patrick, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So you hear the report. The conclusion of the report, by the way, is there will be no criminal charges.
Right.
But in the explanation, we get that President Biden is elderly, has a poor memory. The concern is people tend to remember headlines. You're a Democratic strategist, analyst. What do you think?
A little bit of editorializing. I would echo what the governor said on that. I think special counsel Hur overstepped a bit when he started adding adjectives to what he felt about the way that the president responded in interviews, which, by the way, were conducted the day after the October 7th attacks on Israel. The president had more on his mind. So I'm not too worried about that. I would say, as we take a step back, age is going to come back up throughout the campaign. And it's an issue that voters know about and care about. And it's an issue that we're going to continue to talk about in different ways as the campaign goes on.
So you're right. Age is a factor, and it's been a factor. But then you have moments like this and some of the things that President Biden will confuse when he's at the microphone and stuff, which can happen to anybody, but he's been doing it. We've seen it lately. Is this a bigger problem for Democrats? Does it put it back on the front burner as opposed to it's baked in the cake?
No, I really do think, I would say President Biden has been making statements like these since before I was born. This is a very Biden thing to do. Not only does he kind of waffle around gaffes, but he's also got speech fluidity issues. I think these are moments, as you say, that the president has done in the past that voters have overlooked as they think about the wider stakes of the race.
So some of the mistakes we've talked about, I mean, for example, he referenced Mitterrand of France when he met Macron. Mitterrand died in the 90s. Helmut Kohl of Germany again instead of Angela Merkel. And of course, most recently, Sisi saying he was president of Mexico instead of Egypt. So I understand that we can dismiss these things, but how many chits do you get? I mean, look, Trump confused Nancy Pelosi with Nikki Haley and stuff. How many chits do you get? And why is it that they seem to stack up against the Biden side as opposed to the Trump side where Republicans brush it away?
Now, that's an interesting question because I think that gets into the media ecosystem that we're in, where Trump makes gaffes, mistakes, lies all the time on the campaign trail, and these aren't stacking up in the way that I think they do in the mainstream media against President Biden. And I think that's associating his gaffes with his age on a story that they find compelling. And I just don't think that voters I don't think there's a premium in terms of what voters care about beyond what they already know.
As you know, on Thursday night, after all of this came out, the president went on television. He talked about it, and that's where we saw, some of these
Right.
fumbling sort of happen.
Right.
But forget the name mistakes. He talked about, I never showed the ghostwriter any of these documents, and of course, it's on tape
Sure.
that he did. So once again, part of
Yeah.
the concern is he making this a bigger dilemma? Should he have let it be, or is he smart to say, I'm coming out, I'm dealing with it, and then get himself in arguably a little deeper?
I think it would have been wise to take a beat. I think the president was furious, particularly around what the special counsel said about forgetting his son's death, which is a pretty low blow, as I think the president reminded us yesterday. I think the president was emotional, he was frustrated, he was angry, he wanted to get out there and set the record straight and remind folks that there were no charges brought against him, and that's the headline that the White House wanted to get out. Now, in pursuing that strategy, did they make things a little bit muddled? Potentially, yeah.
Let's expand this a little bit, include President Trump, former President Trump in this. We know he's fighting 91 indictments.
That's right.
91 counts, over 4 indictments.
Yeah.
Yet, I would argue he has masterfully spun all of this to talk about the Biden weaponized DOJ and stuff. Now, having worked with the DOJ and in lawsuits, I can tell you that there is very little connection between the DOJ and the White House.
Right.
I mean, there's a line in between it. But that being said, how do Democrats counteract the fact that a lot of people buy the argument? And every time Trump loses a case, it just goes on to blame Biden for it.
Yep, and I think we need to take a step back. And the way that I talk to my neighbors and talk to voters is when you see Donald Trump in court all the time, that is no one person's doing other than Donald Trump. It is because he has been a sex predator, a convicted sex predator. He's been a criminal in business before running for office. As president, he was terrible. That's not a crime. But the actions that he took leaving office certainly were, as he attempted to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. And so the reason why he's showing up as a defendant in federal courts, state courts, is because he's broken the law just that many times. And I say, thank God, bring it on.
Except that he's able to put it all in the Biden administration and
He
put
can
the blame
try.
there.
He can try. And now it's our job to pull that back, to broaden the perspective.
So tomorrow, the former president has to file with the Supreme Court on the immunity decision that he lost at the D.C. Court of Appeals.
That's right.
He most certainly will file. The focus there is going to be, it's interesting, that basically he talks about he needs to have the president, he needs to have the power to do anything he wants. It's amazing as they do focus groups and polls that a lot of people, Republicans who support Trump, actually have no problem with that sort of authoritarian approach he's taking. What's changed in people's heads?
People are so frustrated with the way that they feel government has been working for 10, 20 years. And they're looking for anybody to come and fix the problems they see in the world. And I understand that frustration, but I would say this is a country ruled by law. This is a country that's done well for over 200 years, and it's because of the peaceful transfer of power, because of checks and balances across our government. And I think we need to remind folks that when you rely on one person to run your government, that's a very brittle and awful deteriorating situation like what we're seeing in Russia, China, Iran, you name it. I think that's a very dangerous slope to go down.
We've got several months to go, lots to happen.
Yeah.
Dems have to be able to sell an economy that's improving. Why don't people accept it?
That's
We'll
right.
find out as it goes. Please come back and talk to us. Patrick Hanley,
Thanks so much,
for your
Paul.
time. One more break, and we're coming right back.